What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. Dr. Mike Axler here, PhD in kinesiology and applied physiology, professor of exercise science, and 60-plus time marathoner and ultramarathoner. Do you follow any influencers online? YouTube, Instagram, I guess TikTok. I'm honestly not sure. I've never been on TikTok, but I heard it's like Instagram. In any case, since you're watching this video, then I'm guessing you have some vested interest in some or all aspects of your health, your performance, nutrition, longevity, etc. Do you follow anyone online who says crazy things like dairy is horrible for your health, or bananas are too high in sugar, and broccoli stalks cause inflammation and cancer? If you do, and honestly, I can't name anyone off the top of my head because I don't follow any influencers. I only follow honest scientists. Maybe you should question their claims and do some research for yourself before practicing what they're preaching or even passing along that information to someone else. I've had way too many clients and students not ask me, but tell me over the years that bananas and other fruits are bad because they're too high in sugar, that dark green cruciferous vegetables do cause cancer and inflammation, and that dairy has no health benefits, among other insane claims like Diet Coke is a silent killer. And this just shows the power of belief and persuasion, which is why I do my absolute best as a coach, a professor, and an honest scientist to only discuss the most up-to-date scientific information and leave people with enough space to question for themselves the validity of not only my statements, but of the statements that they may hear elsewhere. So that is going to be the topic of today's video. What we will be discussing in today's video/podcast, however you taking this information, some red flags to look out for that may have the alarm bells chiming. This is pseudoscience. Further, we'll be looking into how to fact check using real science and which influencers to trust and why without naming any names. So if you would like to discern actual scientific fact from mere belief, then I invite you to continue watching and listening. Awesome. To start out, what is pseudoscience in the health and fitness field? First of all, claims that sound scientific but lack actual evidence. Misuse of terminology can sound credible but can be misleading. For example, many supplement marketers cite quote-unquote cellular health or detoxification without providing peer-reviewed evidence. Terms like these often aren't defined in scientific literature and are misapplied and on purpose. Lack of randomized control trials or RCTs. Many popular supplements like NMN, glutathione, or various fat burners are promoted based on rodent or in vitro studies, not human randomized control trials, which are the gold standard for evidence. I talked about this in a few videos about how anything with the word detox in the title or description is probably complete garbage. We luckily have a very nice liver and 2 wonderful kidneys, which are literally working around the clock to clear out any and all debris, foreign particles, and bacteria in order to keep our bodies healthy. So we shouldn't need any sort of juice cleanse or detox tea that not only won't help you, but it could actually harm you. Further, on what is pseudoscience, use of jargon to create credibility without proof. Scientific sounding language does not equal scientific validity. Terms like mitochondrial optimization or DNA repair are often thrown around without evidence of impact in healthy individuals. These can sound authoritative, but usually lack clinical backing. Appealing to complexity. Marketers often overcomplicate their messaging to confuse rather than to clarify. making it harder for consumers to critically assess the claims. Jargon serves more as persuasion than education. And this seems to happen a lot in people who really have no background in science or education, and they find themselves working for a supplement company or as a personal trainer or some sort of medical device salesman or rep. They have really no business talking about some protocol, some medication, or supplement because they themselves have zero idea of how physiology, nutrition, or the body works. So case in point, always be skeptical and do your own homework before listening to someone who may not and probably does not have any sort of experience on the matter. Further, on pseudoscience, relies heavily on anecdotes, testimonials, and biohacking buzzwords. Listen, personal stories can be powerful, but they are not science. The placebo effect, confirmation bias, and regression to the mean can all distort how people perceive their own results, which is why controlled trials exist to separate real effects from psychological ones. Anecdotes might inspire curiosity, but they do not equal causation. Just because something worked for your friend or a fitness influencer does not mean it'll work for you and everyone else. Individual results can vary drastically based on genetics, training history, sleep, and adherence. So robust findings come from large, diverse samples, not one-off success stories. On buzzwords replace evidence. So biohacking, optimization, or quantum healing are frequently used in place of scientific proof. These terms are vague, often unregulated, and unsupported by research. And this is Instagram Influencer 101. Just throw a very superimposed picture up with some caption or a description of how I built this body or something like that. These days, there is no shortage of GLP-1 agonists or over-the-counter or even some illegal drugs, which can help you lose body fat and add muscle. So certainly be skeptical there, because even with AI, it's not hard whatsoever to change the way pictures look. So if you've never heard of a specific supplement, drug, protocol, etc., and it's not widely known about, it's probably that way for a reason. Alrighty, let's identify some red flags for some health and fitness misinformation. Number one, the first red flag is no citations or misused studies. This one is ubiquitous, to say the least. When someone cites outdated, poorly designed, or animal-based studies to make bold health claims for humans, it is a major red flag. A common example is using rodent research to extrapolate outcomes about fat loss, hormones, or chronic disease in people, which is scientifically invalid due to key physiological differences. Good science demands human clinical trials, proper controls, and reproducibility. If no studies are cited at all, the claims likely are not rooted in actual evidence. Reputable science communicators reference systematic reviews or randomized control trials, not just bold statements or cherry-picked anecdotes. Always ask, where's the data, and does it apply to humans? Next, our second red flag, absolute language. This one is huge. You learn this in grad school on day one. Never say something is a fact. You always have to add in evidence and say, we don't know. When you hear, never eat carbs or dairy or fruit, or you need to go keto to lose body fat, or intermittent fasting is the only way or the best way to lose body fat, these are signs of oversimplification and fear-based messaging. Human physiology does not operate in black and white rules. What's beneficial for one person may not apply to another based on genetics, based on context, or health status. Science uses nuances and recognizes the spectrum of responses. Science is also based in confidence levels and statistical probabilities, not absolutes. If someone says a method, quote unquote, guarantees fat loss or definitely cures inflammation, they're likely ignoring the complexity of biology and the actual margin of error in the research. Be cautious of those who claim certainty, because real experts acknowledge what we do not know. Third red flag: demonizing or idolizing foods and supplements. Extremely negative or glorified messaging about single foods or nutrients is rarely backed by balanced science. For instance, demonizing seed oils, and I brought this up in a recent video, demonizing seed oils as toxic ignores human data showing that moderate consumption of polyunsaturated fatty acids may reduce cardiovascular disease risk. So always ask yourself, what's the dose, what's the duration, and who is the population being studied? Further on this, supplements like ashwagandha or berberine may have potential, but they are not miracle cures. And claims of boosting testosterone or melting fat by 300% or some other very high percentage are very much misleading. Research shows small to moderate effects in specific groups under controlled conditions, not dramatic transformations for everyone. So nuance matters. Number 4. Yeah, we're on number 4, the red flags. Before and after pictures and testimonials. As we had said before, photos can be heavily manipulated by lighting, posture, flexing, editing apps, AI, all the rest of it, creating the illusion of transformation. A 12-hour fast or a good pump can make someone appear drastically leaner without reflecting long-term physiological change. Always be skeptical of visual evidence that's used in place of data. When a testimonial ends with "use my code," it is marketing. It is not science. Many transformation stories are tied to financial incentives or confirmation bias and lack controls for diet, training, genetics, or supplementation. So please be cautious of claims that come with a sales pitch. And this is probably my favorite one. The last one here is no credentials or fake ones. Not all titles mean what they sound like. So certified nutritionist might be a weekend online course, while a registered dietitian RD must complete a bachelor's and I think a master's, plus a supervised internship and national board exam. Always look for regulated, evidence-based credentials. This is just one example. Even real credentials don't automatically make someone an expert in every area. For example, a licensed medical doctor, an MD, without training in endocrinology, as an example, should not be viewed as a hormone optimization authority. Look for specialists with expertise relevant to the topic, not just letters after their name. This is what an honest scientist does. Someone who is a lifelong learner, admits they don't know a whole lot about everything, and seeks out the advice and wisdom of those people who do know what they're talking about. AKA, these folks stay in their lane. And while I do think it is the job of an honest scientist to distill scientific insight and evidence in a way for the general public to understand more clearly, it is morally correct for that honest scientist to continue researching, to continue questioning, and just being honest that they are not an expert in every single field. And that's what my job as a professor is. While I was trained and have years of experience in exercise science, nutrition, strength and conditioning, and human physiology, I am by no means the smartest and most experienced person in any of these domains, which is why I stay as up to date as I possibly can. And then as a way to continue learning, I teach it at my job and on this YouTube page. It both helps me learn and it helps me continue to be an honest scientist. And I was very much inspired to write in detail this last section that I just said to all you guys, because the amount of friends, the amount of family friends, gym goers, fellow runners, students, clients, everyone else, who in recent years take, they waste no time in just wagging that index finger in my face. And they tell me something along the lines of, I need to do red light therapy, or I need to stop eating bananas, or I need to listen to this one person online. A lot of these people are so nauseatingly wrapped up in delusion and they're so brainwashed that they think they know more than anyone else because they listened to this one podcast episode or they saw some AI generated meme on Instagram that they have no idea is false. And despite the fact that I'm an exercise science professor, they waste no time in telling me this is what you need to do. And I'm like, hey, whatever. So I at least want to play my part as an honest scientist and give all of you the space to also research stuff on your own that I had found. So despite a lot of people's efforts to claim that they're experts, I do my best to be as honest as possible. Awesome. Next section on how to vet various fitness claims. We're going to split this into three main parts: plausibility, peer review, and profit motive. Number one on plausibility. Before evaluating any health or fitness claim, ask whether it is even biologically possible. Claims that contradict well-established physiological principles like sweating out toxins or resetting your metabolism with juice cleanses fail the plausibility test. As we should know, and as I said before, we have a liver and 2 kidneys which are already efficient detoxifiers, and no tea or cleanse changes that fundamental biology. Further, many myths thrive because they sound science-y, but closer inspection shows they ignore how the body actually works. An example of this, the fat-burning zones on cardio machines always misrepresent how energy systems operate in the body. Fat oxidation and carbohydrate metabolism are continuous. They are not binary. Always ask, does this claim align with basic anatomy and physiology or biochemistry? Second, peer review. Scientific credibility depends on peer-reviewed evidence, ideally from a systematic review or meta-analysis. We'd said that anecdotes, single studies, and testimonials, even if shared by experts or influencers, do not carry the same weight. Use databases like PubMed or Google Scholar to see whether a claim is supported by strong evidence or it's just cherry-picked data. A meta-analysis from the Cochrane collaboration or the Journal of the International Sciences Society of Sports Nutrition will always outweigh a personal blog post or unreviewed white paper. When in doubt, ask, has this been studied? Has this been reviewed by other scientists? Has it been replicated in humans, not just rodents or cell cultures? And lastly, on the profit motive, we touched upon this before. If someone is making a bold claim and also selling you the solution, whether it's a supplement, a program, or a detox product, you can tell how much I hate detox products, you should be skeptical. This doesn't automatically make the claim false, but it does introduce bias. As the saying goes, follow the money. Influencers often quote research, typically incorrectly, then immediately pitch their affiliate link or branded supplement. Even legitimate research can be twisted when there's a financial incentive. Transparency and third-party testing help, but claims with a profit motive deserve extra scrutiny. All right, this next section of who can you trust without naming any names. People who you can trust, the first person who you can trust. People who admit nuance, such as it depends. Real experts avoid black and white answers because most physiological questions depend on context, so age, training status, goals, health status, and much more. For example, optimal protein intake, something I've talked a lot about on this channel, is not a one-size-fits-all approach. A sedentary adult may do fine with 0.8 grams per kilogram per day, while a strength athlete might need 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. Boom, easy. It's not black and white. The phrase, it depends, is not a cop-out. You can very much use that on your dissertation defense, trust me. It's a reflection of scientific integrity. Human biology, as we said, is highly individualized, and sweeping generalizations usually ignore the complexity that good science tries to capture. The second person who you can trust, people who cite studies and show uncertainty when appropriate. Credible experts regularly cite peer-reviewed research to back up their claims, and are quick to admit when evidence is emerging, when evidence is mixed, or evidence is inconclusive. For instance, while creatine is well supported for strength and brain health, emerging data on its use in older adults is promising but not definitive. Rather than cherry pick a single flashy study, true experts contextualize findings within the broader body of literature. They explain how limitations like small sample sizes, short duration, or lack of replication affect how confident we can claim to be. The third person you can trust: people who do not fearmonger or overpromise. Fear-based messaging may drive clicks, and it very much does on YouTube, but it rarely reflects real science. Experts don't tell you that seed oils are poison or carbs are toxic or carbs make you fat. They explain dose, they explain context, and total diet quality instead. Most chronic disease risk is multifactorial, not caused by a single villain. That might need to be like my tagline: is most chronic disease risk is multifactorial, not caused by a single villain. Overpromising results like drop 20 pounds in a week or reverse aging overnight betrays a lack of scientific rigor. The body adapts over time, and sustainable change is usually gradual, as supported by evidence-based guidelines from organizations like the WHO, or the World Health Organization, and the American College of Sports Medicine, the ACSM. And the last person who you can trust are the types of people who promote behavior change, not product dependency. Real experts empower people to change habits, not just buy products. Research shows that sustainable change in exercise, nutrition, and sleep is rooted in behavior change and have a greater long-term impact than any supplemental or short-term fix. Rather than promote dependency on a shake or a pill, credible professionals emphasize education, autonomy, and skill building. The best quote-unquote intervention is teaching someone how to eat, how to move, and how to sleep better, not just what to consume. Awesome. With this, let's do a little summary of what we learned today. Today we talked about common red flags. Remember, no studies, no extreme claims or anecdotes. Please beware of anyone making bold health or fitness claims without citing any research. If a statement sounds definitive but doesn't reference peer-reviewed studies, it is often based on opinion and no data. As of 2019, review in Frontiers in Psychology highlights anecdotal evidence is highly susceptible to bias and rarely accounts for variability between individuals. Claims like never eat carbs or fasting cures ... like the whole fasting thing about, it increases telomere length so you'll live longer. It's like, okay, show me the 200-year-old people here. Okay, go ahead. All of these claims are oversimplified and unscientific. Real science almost never speaks in absolutes. It examines nuance, populations, and conditions. Extremes often serve engagement, not education, and are a hallmark of misinformation, as noted in recent analyses of nutrition misinformation on social media. We also discussed vetting folks with plausibility, peer review, and profit filters. Before trusting any health claim, ask, is this even biologically plausible? A basic understanding of physiology, like how protein is metabolized or how insulin works, can help you filter out junk advice. For example, the idea that eating after 6 p.m. causes fat gain ignores total energy balance and metabolic rate. And it also just ignores time zones. Just think, it is 6 p.m. somewhere right now. Are they eating? Are you eating? Just use your brain, please. Peer-reviewed research exists to help weed out bias, error, and overconfidence. If someone refuses to cite such evidence or only uses animal studies or unpublished data, it is a red flag. Also, always follow the money. Are they selling a supplement, a course, or a coaching program that hinges on you believing that only their method works? And lastly, science changes, but truth shows receipts. Real experts have no problem saying it depends for a reason. Context matters in nearly every human biology and health question. Unlike viral influencers, scientists don't deal in clickbait. They rely on evolving data, replication, and measured interpretation, which is how your understanding deepens over time. Truth in science doesn't come with flashy promises. It comes with receipts, citations, mechanisms, and clearly defined limitations. If someone cannot explain why something works with both logic and research, they're asking you to take it on faith and not facts. As the great astrophysicist Carl Sagan once said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So with that, I do want to thank you for tuning into another episode. I think this was an interesting and a fun one to make. It was not, I feel like this was like the background of how a lot of scientists feel. Coming up through school, grad school, as a researcher, a professor, or someone just trying to get the good, honest, positive scientific research out there. This was a fun one to make because this is how we all feel, right? You hate to see terrible supplement claims and health claims that have no scientific backing, because in general, we all want people to be healthy. We want our common human being to be happy and healthy. And to be able to see like these terrible claims with these influencers who have millions of followers, it's really annoying. So I think this was a fun one to make, and it makes me even more of like a rigid, honest scientist to really question more things and be a little bit more discernible with what I see on social media or what I hear on a podcast. So this was a fun one to make. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please scroll down and like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend, as well as subscribing to my podcast, Simple Science with Dr. Mike Axler, where I do even more deep dives into what I stay in my lane with: exercise science, nutrition, some of the longevity, and the endurance training and stuff. So go ahead and subscribe to my podcast as well as my Instagram, where I put in little tidbits of candy throughout the day to keep you motivated. So with that, again, I want to thank you for tuning in. And it is about that time of day again to go hit the gym. I hope you will as well. Remember, everybody, consistency wins. And I will catch you all in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching.